Good evening. This virtual meeting is to be webcast. Members are reminded to unmute before speaking. Please, for this meeting, raise your hand on the click on the participants button on the bottom of the screen. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is broadcast live to the internet and is capable of repeated viewings. Please, could I also remind members of the public that have registered to speak, they will be admitted to the meeting at the appropriate time and will have 3 minutes to speak. If you stay for the whole meeting after you have spoken, please can you make sure you are on mute. Please also be aware if technical difficulties interrupt the meeting, that cannot be overcome, but I may have to adjourn the meeting. Good evening, I'm Councillor Sherry Rackham and I will be chairing the meeting tonight, and I will also be a voting chairman. I would like to welcome members of the public and our officers to the meeting tonight. And I would like to introduce our planning officers, Jerry Godden and Mo Rahman. And I would also like to say thanks to our democratic officers, Laura Kerman and Vivian Messenger, who will be helping me tonight. I would also like to add that during each application, if you lose your signal, turn off screens, or are seen to leave the meeting, you will not be able to vote on the application. I'd now like to go to the minutes, and I would like to ask if any of our members have any comments, or are they happy to agree the minutes from last month, please?
Agreed.
Agreed, yeah.
Thank you very much. We'll take that as agreed.
Noted.
Thank you. Right. Can I ask the Democratic Services Officer if we have any apologies, please?
There are apologies. There are apologies from the Chair, Councillor Joshua Barnier, Councillor Beales and Councillor Mead.
Thank you very much.
And Chairman, I've explained to the officer that I will have to leave probably after the first planning application.
Right, Councillor Murray, can we go back to that at a slightly later stage, because we have got a change actually to our applications tonight, but we'll go through that slightly later on. Right, my next question is, are there any declarations of interest? Do I take that there are no declarations of interest?
Councillor Owen has got a declaration of interest.
Item number 9, if we're going to discuss it, I have a child who will be attending Davenant in September, so I just want to declare that. I will be voting though, non-pecuniary.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Is there any other business?
There's no other business, Chair.
Thank you. That's great. So we will move on to the planning policy briefing note. This is just to be noted by the subcommittee, and it's detailed in agenda item 7. Are we happy with noting that, please?
Yep.
Noted.
Great. Okay. So I'm now going to move on to item 8, which is site visits. And just to say that members are reminded that for the duration of the coronavirus pandemic, as decided by the group leaders meeting of the 24th of June 2020, no member site visits will be conducted. Therefore, any planning application deferred for a site visit at an area planning subcommittee will be automatically referred to the DDMC for determination. Okay, we are now moving on to our planning applications, but we've had a request from Councillor Alan Lyon, who has to leave early. And as he's actually the councillor for the ward, we've decided to put item 10 up to be discussed first, and then item 9 afterwards. I'm sorry to Councillor Stephen Murray, but Councillor Alan Lyon got in first, so we're going to go with that.
Okay, I understand that, Chairman, but I will just put on record that I'm not happy with that.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Councillor Murray. So can we go on to application 10, which is EPF 2040-20, and it's 47 Stradbroke Drive in Chigwell, And I understand that Mo Rahman is going to present this for us, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to share my screen. Can members see my screen?
Yes, thank you, we can.
You can. You can.
Okay, so this application is for a replacement dwelling. This is the location plan outlined in red. This to the left is the existing site plan. And to the right-hand side is the proposed site plan. Members can see the proposed dwelling is of a larger scale than existing. These are the existing elevations. This is the existing and proposed street scene. These are the proposed basement and ground floor plan. So these are the proposed first floor plan and the loft plan. And this is the existing and proposed roof plan. And these are the proposed elevations. And this is the 3D plan. This is a 3D view. This is from a different angle. This is a closer view. So to the right-hand side, number 49 is a new build. From a different angle. And so this image here, this is a example of a similar design to the proposal before members. It's a few doors away from the application site. And here are further examples within the same road. So you have numbers 32, 34, and 36. So in summary, the proposed dwelling will have a neutral impact to the wider area and the street scene, and there's no material impact to neighboring amenities. And officers are recommending it for approval subject to the conditions as set out in the agenda. Thank you. That's the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Mohammed. Can we now go to our first speaker, who is the applicant's agent, Joel Stern, please?
Good evening.
Good evening, Joel.
Just read. First of all, thank you. And it was a pleasure working with Mohammed to get this application to stage. Very much open communication, amazing. So yes,
right,
thank
Joel,
you.
can I stop you there because you've only got 3 minutes? So
if you'd
like to start now.
Yeah,
start now, Joel, please. Thank you.
I was worried there might be objections. That's why I registered myself to speak. But I don't think there is any objections on this proposal. It enhances the character, enhances the street scene. It makes a nice, good dwelling for the family living there. They need the space, they want the space, they worked hard to get the space. So there's not much. I think we ticked all boxes from tree report, all reports that was to tick, we ticked. So not much I can add on to it, only hoping that the councils will see the same way as the planning officer.
And is that the end of your 3 minutes?
Finished, yes.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Joel. We're going to start the debate now. Thank you. Do we have any speakers on this? We do. Can I firstly go to the ward councillor, Councillor Lyon, and after Councillor Lyon, can I go to Councillor Darshan Sunga, please?
Thank you, Chairman. There was a couple of points. It is quite a significantly larger footprint than the existing dwelling, both in depth and I think height. I'd like to have a look again at the street scene and the height difference, and if the officer can give us an indication of how much higher it is, because it is on a slope. So I think there's an added complication there with the property next door.
Okay, can we go back to Mohammed Rahman, please, on that?
Yes, Chair, I'm just sharing my screen. Is the street scene visible?
Yeah.
Okay, as you can see, the ridge line will be raised to be in line with number 46, 45 Stradbroke Drive. It would be slightly higher than the existing, number 49. But however, officers have assessed this, and it wouldn't appear over dominant when viewed in relation to number 49. And yeah.
Okay. Can I make one other observation, Chairman? At the last meeting, we agreed to include working hour directives on all our applications, and I don't see any working time conditions on these particular conditions. So if there isn't, I think we need to propose some.
Can I just clarify? Condition 16 on the agenda is the working hours.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can we go to Councillor Darshan Sunga, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, all. We've just seen the plan there, which showing the gradient of the houses. So can we just bring that back up again, please, Chair? Just an observation that Okay, so if we look at the top view there with the existing street scene, you can see, and if you look at the the base, you can see that the house on the right hand side is higher. This is lower, and then the property next to that, number 47, I think, is even lower. I can see where Councillor Lyon is heading towards, because the roof line is slightly higher. I think that's just something that needs to be taken into consideration. But in terms of the house itself and the homes down that turn, it is a premier turning in Chigwell, those that know the area very well, and there are no two homes that look the same. This particular turning does attract bigger homes. I personally don't have any issues with this. I think it's an outstanding, beautiful design as well. So I'll leave it to the members, but I don't seem to have any issues with this at the moment. Thank you.
Councillor Sandler, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree with what Councillor Sunga has just said, so I won't repeat it. I just wanted to confirm that the existing house seems to be from perimeter to perimeter with no sideway whatsoever, and the proposed new house seems to be leaving a minimum of 1 metre gap either side. Can that be confirmed for me?
That is correct.
Thank you. It makes it more detached, and I think extremely fitting with the other designs in that particular turning. I most certainly support it.
Councillor Murray, please.
I just wanted to explain why I will be supporting this, even though I don't like it. I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't support it. Having this application was quite useful because it gave me an opportunity to drive down a road I'd never ever been in before. And I have to say, I personally, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I didn't see a single property I liked. I thought they were all as horrendous as each other. So I think that this is in place. It's in keeping with the rest of the road, and I understand if it's a Premier Road, but I have to be honest and say I'm absolutely delighted that we've got nothing like this in Loughton Road. But absolutely no problem with supporting it because it fits in with the rest of the road. And if people like that, that's fine. My personal view, and I'm not here to vote on my personal views and likes, was that it was an horrendous road. But that's a personal opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Can I go to Councillor Owen, please?
I just had a quick question. Is it a wraparound balcony on the first floor that someone can walk onto and overlook the neighbours?
It is the first floor terrace. There are privacy screens to the edges, so there'll be no harmful overlooking to neighbouring gardens.
It looked like it was going to overlook to me, but I echo Councillor Murray's comments. I mean, it's in keeping with the road. I wouldn't be very happy on my road, but hey ho.
Can I go to Councillor Patel, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to comment to say that I thought the architectural design of the property was very good, actually. I think it's an enhancement on the existing property, and I take on board the point that the ridge height is going to be slightly higher than the neighbouring property, but it's not that noticeable. And I will be supporting this application this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Patel. Can I finally go to Councillor Wixley, please?
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. I think I'm in the Councillor Marion Owen court as regards design. I don't particularly like design, but I know that's not really an issue because all the other houses look to be in keeping. What I was interested, what I thought I noted, which is a good thing, that there appear to be solar panels on one's roof side. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. I think that's something in its favour anyway.
Are there any other speakers, please?
Councillor Sunga would like to come back, I think.
Okay. Councillor Sunga.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me come in. This is nothing to do with the application, but I just want to put Councillor Murray right here. We're very proud of some of our majestic homes that we have in this particular Premier Drive, and I will stick up for the residents like you do for Loughton, for Chigwell. Very proud of some of the designs of the people that live there. I think to say that's a horrible turning, it's not fair. But nevertheless, we're very proud of this turning and very proud of the people that live here in Chigwell. Hence why I'm very proud to be a Chigwell councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sunga, and I would like to say the same. There's some beautiful houses down there, and it's each to every person that, like, you know, as they say, one man's castle is probably not another man's castle, but I do think it's a beautiful road, and I'm glad to see that we have all different sorts of properties down there, and one of which is yours, I believe. Thank you very much. Can we now go to the vote?
Okay, so I'll do the roll call. For, against, or abstain. Councillor Baldwin.
For.
Councillor Brooks.
For the application.
Councillor Heap.
For.
Councillor Bob Jennings.
For.
Councillor Judy Jennings.
For.
Councillor Kaufman.
Abstain.
Councillor Lyon.
For.
Councillor Murray.
For.
Councillor Neville.
For.
Councillor Owen.
For.
Councillor Patel.
For.
Councillor Chris Pond.
Abstain.
Councillor Caroline Pond. Councillor Sandler.
4.
Councillor Sunga.
Councillor Sunga, 4.
Councillor Wixley.
4.
And Councillor Rackham.
4.
That's 14 for and 3 abstain.
Okay, thank you very much. That is carried, and we can now move on to the next application, which is EPF-1465-20, and Jerry Godden is going to take us through this application.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully members can see the screen. This is an application at Davenant School off Willingale Road in Debden. This is an application to remove 2 existing temporary classrooms and replace them with a permanent standalone block. As you can see from the plan, the 2 existing temporary blocks are these buildings here, and the new block will go here in this car park area there. This view is looking to the south, so it shows Grosvenor Drive up here. These are the 2 buildings that will be removed, and the new building will be placed in this area here. So there will be some loss of car parking spaces, a total of 8 in this particular case. So this shows the layout. The 2 blocks will be removed from this area and the new block put in here, and this area resurfaced and parking provided. But as I said, there will be a loss of 8 parking spaces overall. This is a general design view of the proposed new block in brick and modern facings from the other side. So we've had a number of objections to this scheme. Let's get to them. Parish Council, the Town Council even, have objected to this application on the grounds that while members recognise the need to replace the demountables at their end of their useful life, the design for the proposed new build was only marginally better than that of the existing temporary buildings, resembling a 1950s factory. The design would not be in keeping with the buildings close to it. Council committee appreciate the need to keep the profile low due to its close proximity to neighbouring residential properties, but felt the architects could produce something more appropriate and sustainable with maybe a green roof. We've also had an objection from 151 Grosvenor Drive that the building is too close to the fence and inadequate parking for provision. 147 Grosvenor Drive, concerned at potential noise from the building, asked whether the windows can be non-opening, trees will be retained and drainage will not be affected. And the Loughton Residents Association have commented on to the built form, describing it as bland, lacking depth and concerned about the flat roof potentially leaking in the future. The officers have looked at this case. Somewhat unusually, the school is in the green belt, although you probably wouldn't believe it from the aerial photographs because it's really the playing field to the back, but it is within the green belt. So the starting point is, would this be appropriate development in the green belt? And in this case, the answer is quite simply yes. It's replacement buildings. There's 2 dismountable buildings, which, as many schools are aware, might be put in for a temporary period and then become very, very permanent 20 to 30 years later. And as has happened here. So the buildings have been in situ for some considerable time. They're clearly needed to maintain the business of the school as a school. And they've reached the end of their useful lives, hence the desire to replace 2 of the buildings with 1 new building which can accommodate the pupil and classrooms on the existing car park. The officers' report lays out our assessment of the scheme, and the officers can see no reason to recommend a refusal to this application. They're of the opinion that the building itself is suitably located within the site. We note the neighbours' concerns about noise and being close to the boundary, but the existing 2 buildings are close to the boundary, as you can see from the aerial photograph on the screen. And that building will be in this area here. So there is little, if anything, any difference from the noise that would be created from buildings on the school ground in any event. I mean, it's clear this isn't a playground, this would be a classroom. So it would not be noisy or disruptive any more than the existing existing buildings are. In terms of the trees and drainage, they will not have an adverse effect in that, and the drainage is considered in the officer's report. It is noted that the majority of the objections seem to centre around the design of the building, and in many respects, as members will be aware, design is a subjective issue. The town council clearly didn't like it, and neither did the Residents Association. However, officers have looked at this, and we think this is a perfectly acceptable scheme for a school for the purposes intended. And it has to be remembered, we have to assess the application on what's put before us, not what might be wanted to be on the site by other persons. And so, having looked at this, we are of the opinion that it's suitable. It's appropriate for where it is within the site and for the overall site as a whole and for its function. And therefore, we are recommending approval subject to the conditions.
Thank you, Jerry. Can I go to our first speaker on this tonight, who's our objector, and his name is Mr. Lawrence Parker. Do we have Mr. Parker?
Mr. Parker, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good evening,
right,
Mr. Parker. You've got 3 minutes from now, if you'd like to start.
I would just quickly like to remind the committee that when the temporary classrooms were given the go-ahead in 2010, the committee put 2 conditions that were placed on the application. Councillor Markham asked for and got a 4-year temporary planning permission, following which they had to be knocked down and the ground reinstated. 7 lost parking spaces had to be replaced and built with planning permission sought. It's all in the officer's paperwork. I can't find any details of these being adhered to. They're still there. They should have gone in 2014. I believe that warrants refusal of the application and being told to comply with the conditions laid down, resubmit an application and come to this committee with clean hands. If you are going to let them go through, then I would like the same conditions in force on the new building that we presently have, with 2 extra ones. Number 1, only for use between 9 and 4, Monday to Friday. Number 2, which is already in force, all windows and doors facing residential properties have to have obscured glass. Number 3, no music to be played inside because they're so close to the boundary lines. I would remind the committee, they agreed to that last time, but the officer changed it to no amplified music. The school then just put drums in there and played drums in them. I'd like a new request, please, of no hire and reward. The school now advertise classrooms for hire 7 days a week, only a few yards from the back of your garden. Number 5 is a new request also, that all lighting on the building and surrounds must not shine into residential properties. Their supporting surveys concerning the culvert need closer inspection because they're wrong. And I'd just like to remind everybody, you can see that original application. It is a webcast, and the headmaster actually said in it, I was there, that the classrooms were needed for the psychology department. I would just say, any further car parking spaces lost, as we've heard that there's 8, they should be forced to build and replace the 8 parking spaces elsewhere on the site. Parking in the area remains a problem with Davenant pupils. The parking issue hasn't gone away. And if they haven't already done the 7 that they're supposed to do, they shouldn't be even looking to put this building up and make even more problems with parking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Can I now go to our second speaker, who is Andrew Dow, and he's the applicant's agent, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to discuss the proposals. I speak on behalf of the client, Davenant Foundation School. So as previously explained, the school has 4 demountable units, which date from the 1970s. quite a lot of maintenance issues required. This proposal seeks to replace the existing provision at the school. In terms of the policy context, as explained, it is on Greenbelt land. However, the proposed classroom would be in a discrete location and is considered acceptable at all levels of planning policy. In terms of the specific design issues raised by the Town Council Planning Committee, the proposed palette of external facing materials is intended to follow the language of the existing buildings within the vicinity of the proposed new building. The materials proposed to the external envelope have been selected in part for their architectural quality and for their longevity, so that the building has a long design life to minimise environmental impact and footprint. In contrast to the existing relocatable buildings on site are formed in low quality materials and construction, and as such their design and sustainability credentials are limited. The design maximises natural lighting and balancing solar gain, which along with the thermal first approach to the fabric ensures that the energy consumption and production is reduced. And one of the specific queries was in relation to the green roof. This is something that would improve the sustainability of the proposals. However, unfortunately, isn't achievable within the government funding budget. So in conclusion, I trust the officer's report and presentation alongside the additional details that have been provided are of assistance, and I respectfully request that you support the case officer's recommendation for approval. Thanks all.
Thank you, Mr. Dow, for speaking tonight. Can I just, just before we start the debate, can I just go to Councillor Owen and Councillor Pond and ask if Councillor Stephen Murray could speak first? Because I know that he's on a very tight timescale tonight and we'll have to leave the meeting very shortly. Is that okay with you? And then I'll go to, obviously, Councillor Pond and then Councillor Owen. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, fine with it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stephen Murray, would you like to speak, please?
Okay, thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the ward members for allowing me to do that. I'm hoping to be able to stay for the vote as well. Generally, I'm sympathetic to the application. I understand the need for it, but I'm also sympathetic to the residents because I know what classrooms are like, having taught in secondary school classrooms for 40 years, and they're not necessarily quiet places. I don't know what other members thought about what the site plans that we saw. I accept that these buildings are no nearer to the boundary line than the current relocatables, but in terms of their nearness to properties, they are actually nearer to the properties they will be boundary to than the existing relocatables. To my eye, the distance seemed considerably nearer because of the angle of the gardens and the angle of the building. So absolutely right that they are the same distance from the boundary, but the houses that they are actually boarding to are considerably nearer to the building. So I have a great deal of sympathy with the idea if the building allows that these are windows that are either frosted or don't open. I have some trouble about that if that then means the classroom doesn't have any windows on the other side, and I obviously can't tell that from the plans because I certainly wouldn't want to teach, and I don't think the school would want to build classrooms where there are no windows that could open. But I do have a great deal of sympathy from that point of view because I think they are considerably nearer to where people live than the current relocatables. And I obviously don't know what classes are going to be put in here, but you're an unsupervised class of 30 children just for 10 minutes, and no school can guarantee that they're going to be supervised the whole time, you know, people moving from lessons can make an awful lot of noise. So I do think that's a legitimate issue. I think the condition, if we are allowed to do it, that they are not used to rent out outside of school hours is a reasonable condition if we're allowed to impose that condition, because schools are generating a lot of money by hiring their premises, and I just feel the school has more than enough options away from where people live. So if that was a condition that we could legitimately put on them, that they weren't open for public hire. So in other words, they were only used during educational hours and for teaching purposes for the school. And I don't like the loss of car parking problem. I'm sure somewhere within the site or the rationalisation of existing parking, they can keep the parking numbers up. But with those kind of considerations, I would be likely to support it. So I would like to perhaps ask the planning officers to show us again the location, and I think you'll see they are considerably nearer houses, so it is not unreasonable if we're allowed to do those things about the windows facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray.
Would you like me to come back on that, Chairman?
Yes, please.
Yes, members, if they were so minded, could impose a condition regarding the hours of use of the block without any problem whatsoever. I think that would be completely reasonable. I don't think it would be reasonable though to enforce no windows to be opened in the classroom, especially now with COVID and the long-term likelihood that that's going to keep going on. We wouldn't be able to sustain that as a condition, no.
Thank you. Can I now go to Councillor Michael Owen, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Councillor Murray actually covered pretty much both of my points. I'd be happy to second him on obscured glass. I think is sensible, and restricting the use to the day. I think maybe, you know, letting some morning clubs or after school clubs as well. But certainly, I think in terms of external hire, that should be a no-no. If we can put that forward, I'd support.
Thank you. Can I now go to Councillor Pond, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I should say that I'm the ward councillor for the application site, but I'm also the county councillor for the adjacent site. And I do have serious concerns about this application. I want to say at the outset, I know the existing temporary classrooms are probably at the end of their life, because our son was based for a year in one of them, and you know, that is going back some decades. So at least one of those classrooms is 40 years old. Having said that, I want to take a couple of minutes to pick up some comments in the report, which I think are wrong. First of all, there is an assertion that there is no parking stress in this area. That, Madam Chairman, I think is absolute nonsense. The area of Grosvenor Drive, I have had complaints year after year about the saturation of the area by parking by senior pupils and the lack of opportunity for anyone returning in the middle of the day or afternoon to find any parking space as a resident. So the loss, in my view, of what is said to be between 8 and 11 parking spaces is actually a serious matter. And I don't believe the Highways Department know very much about parking, because, of course, parking is outsourced to the Parking Authority, which is the North Essex Parking Partnership. And I would very much prefer, where parking stress is likely to be an issue, if the officers went to North Essex Parking Partnership technical officers and got a report from them rather than the Highways Department. Secondly, another error, I think, in the report is that there is a so-called drainage channel. Well, that drainage channel is, in fact, the tributary of the River Roding called the Coal Brook. It's a river. Some of it is in culvert, but it is not a drainage channel. And the issue with it is that beyond Debden Lane, this stream bifurcates into 5 streams, and any obstruction near the culvert inevitably results in flooding in Debden Lane. And I have had to deal as the county councillor with an extremely serious occurrence of flooding adjacent to this site. And I wonder whether the officers have actually consulted with the Lead Drainage Authority, which is the county council, because I think they would be completely aware of the fact that this is not a drainage channel. This is a culvert carrying a river, which is a tributary of the Roding, and it's liable to blockage. And that is referred to in the desiderata stated in paragraph 234 of the flood report, which is that Environment Agency and other regulations require, where possible, that culverts should be removed and the course of the river become naturalized. And that, I think, is what is needed here. This is very close to the site on which the proposed building will be erected, and I think more consideration should have been given to that by the officers and by the applicants. I do agree, incidentally, with the comments of the Town Council, and Councillor Sanger may care to note that in the new iteration of the NPPF, which is coming out this year, we will be required to adhere to a local design code. So the question of whether one man thinks it's beautiful and another thinks it ugly won't in the future be so relevant. But I have to say, I do think this is a utilitarian building, which looks cheap and nasty. And I don't think it will improve the built environment of Loughton or of the Greenbelt. Could the officer confirm that the size of the parking spaces adhere to the County Council's guidelines? Because looking at them on the plan, which I had no scale on a screen, of course, I couldn't be certain about. I'm concerned about the surface of the proposed car park, which is stated to be asphalt. And in this day and age, we really should be looking at permeable surfaces, including grasscrete or something similar. So, on the whole, I agree with the objector on this. I think certainly we need conditions about the display of lights, obscure glazing, no weekend or evening use, and we need a provision relating to noise insulation. With those things dealt with, and I would like to hear the officer's reply on them, then I suppose we might just pass this application. But as I say, as ward councillor, I am not happy with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pond. Jerry Godden, can you come back on Councillor Pond's points, please?
Yes, I can. With regards to the sound insulation, that is a building control matter and would not be something we could condition. With regard to the desire for a condition on lights and no weekend use, that would be acceptable. We could put that on, as previously said. The officers have consulted with the drainage experts at Epping Forest, and they have said that the drainage arrangements are fine with reference to the flood risk assessment documentation that has been submitted. So we've got the technical experts at our end saying that this won't cause a problem flood-wise. In terms of parking stress, I think the officer's referring to the fact that this is normally going to be during the day. We have had previous inspectors' reports saying that severe parking stress is at 95% of occupancy in the hours when you would expect to hopefully park your vehicle if you're not taking it to work. I fully accept that the pandemic will have changed that perhaps slightly, but we haven't had objections from the Highways Authority to this. I think if there's anything I've missed, Councillor Pond wants to come back, and I'll see if I can answer it.
Councillor Pond?
Chairman, yes, I hear what the officer says. Sound insulation is, I believe, something which we could condition, but if the committee is content to leave it to building regulations, then I'm not going to argue. I think a great opportunity has been lost if we are designing a building of this type with a flat roof, of installing a green roof or at least solar panels and so forth on it. I might say to the committee that I was unable to read all the flood documentation, because when I clicked on it on the website, I got a message saying, this file, being in excess of 80 megabytes, cannot be displayed on the internet. Please approach the planning department. So I don't think that was very satisfactory. And I think the whole question of the flood precautions and the culvert are matters which are material to this application, which I would have liked to have had more information.
Thank you, Councillor Pond. Can I now go to Councillor Simon Heap, please? Councillor Heap?
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Pond's raised some very, very interesting points. Essentially, investing in education is a good thing, and I think this is a better building than the ones that exist at the moment. So I'm still minded to agree with it. In terms of criticism of its design, is a 1950s factory? Well, not enough from my point of view. I think it could have gone even further down that route. Pretty good. It's pretty low, so it's not going to have a huge impact, but it is, as Councillor Pond points out, and Councillor Murray, much closer to the new neighbours that are going to be hit by it. So everything must be done to mitigate any kind of impact on them, which includes screening, which includes obscure glass, which includes soundproofing, and that is something that can be conditioned right now. I mean, it should be something that could be conditioned right now. Hours of usage, yes, of course. I'm still minded to agree with it, but there are problems with it.
Thank you, Councillor Heap. Do you want to come back on any of that, Mr. Godden?
Well, I think I've well, certainly, yeah, soundproofing is something for building control. It wouldn't be for us in this case. I mean, if we were dealing with a block of flats, it might be something that would be appropriate for the planning process, but we're not. We're talking a standalone building here. Soundproofing is not something that we could deal with under the planning. Is the first thing. And the second thing is condition 3 does require further details to be submitted before the works commence of flood mitigation measures. So the flooding issue has been fully acknowledged and dealt with by way of the conditions and the current information we have before us, and the conditions then take that forward.
Thank you. Can I now go to Councillor Roger Baldwin, please?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, well, I do agree with the points made by Councillor Chris Pond and Stephen Murray. I think that's very, very detailed objections which cover some of the things I was going to say. I can't really add much to that. I just wanted to say specifically that with regard to the classroom, that I know how, as a teacher myself, I know how noisy and really it's quite incredible how much the decibels that can be generated by a classroom. So with regard to the close proximity to Grosvenor Drive, I do really think it's an issue of noise carrying across. So I know we've discussed that in detail, and it is a building control issue. So I fully accept that. I don't believe that we should have obscure glazing, and I believe windows need to be open because ventilation is extremely important. And I know that people do like to look out the window and see what's going on around them. So I'm not too keen on obscure glazing. And I'm just about to support this. The aesthetics of the building, I think, is disappointing. And again, I think Councillor Pond's absolutely right. A lot more could have been done, and with solar panels on top, green roof. I would have loved to have seen that. But if the budget doesn't allow it, then so be it. I think with appropriate conditions, I can just about support this. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Baldwin. Can I now go to Councillor David Wixley, please? Councillor Wixley?
Yeah, I'm just unmuting myself.
Okay.
You took me by surprise because you seem to be going in alphabetical order, so I was expected to be last. You see, yeah, my on the building itself, I wonder if any water facilities in there because I'm quite interested in how environmentally friendly this building is. And I think the applicant's agent said that there are facilities within it which kept the heating, or it was in that respect it was environmentally friendly. But if there are toilets and things like that, I just wondered if there's measures put in place to ensure efficient use of water. That's on the building itself. If I could just make a comment on the agenda. On page 20, there's reference to the Loughton Residents Association, and this has come up before. It is important that it's the Loughton Residents Association Plans Group who make these comments. So this has been mentioned before, and I'd hope that would be taken note of in future.
Thank you, Councillor Wixley. Jerry Goddard, do you want to come back with anything about the water in the building, please?
I have, well, I'm sure the information is on the file, but I don't personally know it. What's going on within the building, to be honest.
Okay.
And I also note Councillor Wixley's point about the LRA plans group.
Yeah. If there's any way we could find out what facilities the building will have, that would be great, and we could perhaps feed that back to the members, if that is possible. So that is a valid point.
Just a minute, I'll see if I can see anything on the plans. Right, it would appear looking at the floor plan that there are 6 classrooms, a plant room and 2 toilets, 2 individual toilets and a looks like a sink room and a group room. So there's 2 toilets in the building.
Thank you, Jerry. Councillor Wixley, are you happy with that?
Well, the point is, are there water efficiency measures built into the building? I mean, maybe Mr. Dowell could answer that, but I think as this is a building for children and they're very much about the future, then there should be particular attention placed in the environmental future because, you know, they're going to be around when I'm not, and I hope for a cleaner and greener world by the time I've gone. But so I think it's important that those sort of measures, environmental measures, are incorporated into a building which is for a school.
Well, if I can come back there, Chair.
Yes, of course you can.
Yes, these would be stuff dealt with by the building regulations as well. So the building regulations would catch up issues of water use in toilets and sinks, etc. So that is captured by the building regulations, which are separate to the planning regs.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Brian Sandler now, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've heard a lot of repetitive statements about the woes and wherefores of why we shouldn't have this building because of its size, shape, etc. If we had a large pitched roof, the building would look much nicer, but would bring far more complaints from all the neighbours because it'd be too tall. So I think in practical terms, this is the best type of structure that can go there. I think we should really remind ourselves that Davenant Foundation School has got a most wonderful reputation. It's a tremendous school, a fantastic asset to the area, and educates our children for the future benefit of the country. I think we should be doing everything we possibly can to enhance their education and not be petty and find little reasons to not have a building built to give this facility to our children. So I really feel that we should go ahead and pass this, because everybody that's complaining about it has been saying, well, I shall agree to pass it. Let's just get on with the vote and pass it without any more silly talk. Sorry, my thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Sandra, and I totally agree with you. Can we lastly go back to one of the ward councillors, Councillor Chris Pond, please?
Yes, I seem to have lost your pictures now. They've come back. It's all right. Would Mr. Godden agree that although a scheme of noise insulation is a matter for building regulations, could we not insert a condition saying a scheme for noise reduction from the building hereby authorised shall be submitted to the local planning authority and agreed by them in writing before the building is occupied?
You could, but I'd ask what you would actually expect from that, because it's unenforceable. I mean, the enforcement team cannot go around and tell school children to be quiet. So I'm not quite sure what the benefit would be.
The benefit would be to the neighbours.
Yeah, no, I understand that. It's more of a, how would you enforce it?
Well, because there would be physical construction of the building. That would cement into the planning permission the necessary reduction of noise, which you have said should be carried by the way of building regulations.
Yes, which is a matter for the building regulations. I can't see how you would impose that as a condition from a planning perspective. I mean, if you were talking to putting up acoustic barriers on the side, on the boundary, that's a practical measure. I can't, and saying that the building will only be used between, say, 8:30 and 4 o'clock Monday to Friday, that those are enforceable conditions. I'm not sure, I may be missing this, councillor, what you're actually suggesting the condition should have.
I did have the idea of acoustic barriers, but I'm not sure how practical they would be given the proximity to the watercourse. However, I'm willing to leave that to the building regulations people, but I don't agree with Councillor Sandler that we should just vote on it and send it through, because unlike some councillors here present, I have the welfare of the neighbours very much in my mind, and having been on the receipt of numerous complaints from them over the past, I agree with him that Davenant School has got a good record. Of course I do. But that doesn't mean to say even if it was a sink school, we shouldn't support it. But what we do need to do is to ensure that it does not disproportionately and adversely affect the people who live near it. So I would, Madam Chairman, I would move for an additional condition about the occupancy and use of the building being limited to education hours, as Stephen Murray has mentioned them. The same as in the previous planning commission. I would say obscure glass halfway up the windows, and I would say conditions relating to lights in and around the building, fixed to the outside of the building. And okay. I would be prepared to move those.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. Right, okay, I think at this point we should go to the vote with the added conditions. Everyone's happy with those?
Yes, I'm happy with that.
Lovely. Okay, so can we go to the vote, please?
So this is a vote for the recommendation with additional conditions. I'm sorry, can I ask you to say your name and then how you're going to vote? So Councillor Baldwin.
Yep, Councillor Roger Baldwin, 4.
Councillor Brooks.
Councillor Brooks, for the application.
Councillor Heath.
4. Councillor Heath, 4.
Councillor Bob Jennings.
Councillor Bob Jennings, 4.
Councillor Judy Jennings.
Councillor Judy Jennings, 4.
Councillor Kaufman.
Councillor Kaufman, 4.
Councillor Lyon.
I think Councillor Lyon has left the meeting.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Councillor Murray.
He's left the
He's
meeting.
left the meeting. And Councillor Neville.
4.
Councillor Owen.
So Owen 4.
Councillor Pond.
Councillor Chris Pond 4.
Councillor Caroline Pond.
Councillor Caroline Pond 4.
Councillor Sandler.
Councillor Brian Sandler 4.
Councillor Sunger.
Councillor Tarsha Sunger 4.
Councillor Wixley.
Councillor Wixley against.
Councillor, and I'm sorry, I realised on my list I've missed out Councillor Patel.
He's left the meeting.
He's left the meeting. Thank you, Vivian. Councillor Rackham.
Councillor Rackham 4.
Thank you. That's 12 for, 1 against.
Thank you. So that is approved. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to go to 11, exclusion of press, public and press. And that's as it is on the paper. And that closes the meeting tonight at 20:03. And I'd like to say thank you to everyone that attended and good night.